I assume everybody can hear me. Like, raise your hand, do something. Uh, Yay! All right. Wow. Uh, so a lot of touchstones that have already happened. I've been listening in to the service so far. Memories. One being Evan Hodkins. The song about what was it? Forgetting now. I was part of a recording where back in the early 90s when we recorded about 10 of Evan's songs. And I have very fond memories of Evan and his music, as well as his presence. I love the song that was chosen um, just prior to me coming on here, the Amy Grant song about the me that remains. What a beautiful, beautiful teaching and remembrance about the sacred nature of who each one of us is. And that is the me that remains. In spite of all that goes on in our human life, we still have this sacred presence and sacred truth about us that is indestructible and beautiful. So I will say that my soul feels welcome here, truly. Thank you for welcoming me. Truly, of course, Candace, my wife, and I were scheduled to be there in person, and other plans got in the way here. One of which is, well, my wife re-injured the high hamstring tendon that she had injured last year, and so that prevented us from being able to travel. But we will get there. I promise we will get there again in person. I'm going to begin with this a couple of lines here that I think some of you are familiar with. One comes from Albert Einstein when he wrote that never cease to stand like curious children before the great mystery into which we were born. And these words of Yeshua, Jesus Christ, from Matthew 19, let the little children come to me and do not hinder them, for to such belongs the kingdom of heaven. I'm sure most all of us are familiar with that passage. And this has a lot to do with the topic, which is reimagining aging. It's become my personal project, quite frankly, to reimagine aging. And I have two cohorts that are working on this project with me. There'll be more to come about that. I think you'll be hearing from me related to the project that we're working on. So I've taken a more than a deep dive into the experience of what it is to age. I recall that the last time I spoke with you online like this was February 15. And I shared this particular thought back then. I want to share it with you again. The ultimate truth remains that we, all of us here, we are here to experience the deep rootedness and empowering inspiration of the tree of life in the midst of each of us. The tree of life is a figure of speech, yet it refers to that which dwells in the midst of each of us. Furthermore, the manifestation of this presence and power of the tree of life in our families, in our communities, in our countries, in our spiritual gathering spaces like this, and the world at large, it begins with you and with me. the tree of life. Just taking a moment to reflect on it here. It has very much to do with the power and the energy of which is planted. Speaking of soul, it's planted in my soul. It's planted in your soul to support and imagine and create in this world, in your life, and understanding and direct experience of it, the direct experience of the tree of life that is planted in the center of each and every one of us. That reference to the tree of life you find in Genesis chapter 2, verse 9. When it says, it's just a quick reference, it says, and the tree of life is planted in the midst of the garden. The tree of life is planted in the center of each and every one of us. So I make a direct correlation between the ageless wisdom teachings about the role of being a child. Now, I just recently experienced my 75th birthday. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands for all of those of you who have had at least your 75th birthday. Uh, but like I think a lot of us in this culture, I can fall prey to this inclination to be what? Uninspired, overly distracted, and feeling the loss of what I judge as my purposeful identity, which for me, had been clothed in for decades as a unity minister. I I also at times feel the diminishing of my childlike curiosity. I'm very aware of that. Many of us have been captured. I don't need to see a show of hands. Many of us have been captured by this net of fitting into our social and cultural template, which now includes runaway technology and AI. Now, I don't have a judgment about this, but yet I would love to have a conversation about any one of you there about where this is actually attempting to take us, which in certain respects is distracting us and taking us away from the truth of what we are and what shall truly set us free. This is what Jesus himself spoke directly about 2,000 years ago. Now, in the weekly email from Judy, and I noticed this week, she posted this, something that I had sent her, and I want to share it with you again with a few additions. Somewhere, somehow, in what we describe as the aging process, we actually have the opportunity to pull back the veils of illusion and confusion that our lives adopted during our social maturation process, and we can restore our primordial self and soul. Each one of you sitting in this room today, I say to you, you still have the capacity right now to restore your primordial self and soul. So rather than this time of life just about being, put out to pasture or left field or whatever metaphor you want to use here, I, I for one am feeling, and I've been feeling this lately, I'm heading for the pitcher's mound. Literally, that's where I feel like I want to go. Give me the ball. I want to stand on the pitcher's mound. In other words, I want to exercise my inner sovereignty. And I'm saying that to you. I'm encouraging you to exercise your inner sovereignty. This is fundamental to life from its earliest beginnings and doesn't end at any age. Did you just hear me? I think you did. life's inevitable progression into and through elderhood is ideally suited for creating a thinning of the veils between our human identity and our ageless, timeless, soulful essence. It's already been said here today, our human divinity still is awaiting our full attention. And this opens us to being able to therefore disengage from these ego-driven, life-depleting patterns, both within our personal life and in the world. So aging, quote unquote, then transforms into something other. It transforms into opening and receiving your depth of inspiration, where there is no shortage of creativity, wisdom, outrageousness, excuse me for shouting, power, compassion. We become an entirely different human being. This is what reimagining aging offers. I like the clarity of this simple line from Michael Singer, author of The Untethered Soul. Life itself is your career, and your interaction with life is your most meaningful relationship. Yeah, yeah. Many of us elders, or as elders, who are gazing into our lives now and into the future, our future, are asking the questions like, what are my deepest longings? What are your deepest longings? Over the next 10 years, how may I be fully engaged in who I have come here to be? How may you be fully engaged in who you have come here to be? I am looking, and I'm encouraging this in you, obviously. I am looking for the inspiration and the wisdom and the support necessary to become, quote, an entirely different kind of human being. And therefore, extend that same inspiration, wisdom, and support to others. And we're all called now at this time to extend that same kind of inspiration, wisdom, and support to others. They're waiting for us to show up in this way at this later stage of life. Most of us arrive in a state of consciousness which is often a product, or you might call it a reproduction of the cultural, political, and psychological systems we have lived within in North America. Systems which are largely framed and structured so that each of us becomes a cog in this ever-turning wheel. And this pattern is very well established and accepted as the standard for being a participant in modern Western civilization. When it comes to aging, especially as we enter the category of being a senior, and I've entered into that category. Almost everything about this phase of life in the US culture, in media, is well defined for us ahead of time. Really? I mean, honestly, really? This is the absolute antithesis of what we have inherited from our Unity co-founders, Myrtle and Charles Fillmore. Charles Fillmore wrote, I hope you have ears to hear this. He wrote, unity is a link in the great educational movement inaugurated by Jesus Christ. Our objective is to discern the truth in Christianity and prove it. Wow. So, reimagining aging is coming forward at the same time that our world, our communities, our family members are hurting and fearful. So many of us are really grasping. I can't tell you how many conversations I have been having in the last several months about this. So many of us are grasping for resilience and just the need to feel loved, seeking inspiration, which would support, becoming aligned with and fulfilling our destiny. Ah, so the measure of your alignment with your destiny is determined by something I've shared with you several times. You know this. The measure of your alignment with your destiny is determined by your individual coherence of your heart and soul, your primordial self. Primordial meaning that which is about you that precedes your birth, your soul. Aging, as almost each and every one of us have come to believe and accept, is a socially constructed matrix of patterns and beliefs that begin shaping us at the moment of physical birth and end at physical death. Soul is the everlasting dimension of you and I. Heart is the soul's power center and voice in you and in your worldly experience. This is firmly, completely my experience as well, which this heart, together we magnify through it the power of whatever's needed here, whether it's healing, kindness, resilience, and creativity, whatever it may be. So aging, in its most elegant expression, leads to a greater depth in you, where you become actually, at this time of your life, much more powerful and authentic. A version of you and me which is far more true, far more delicious, far more joyful, far more wise. And you just start to have the direct embodied experience of the circle of life, where there is no beginning and no end. Unlike how we've been taught, how we've been conditioned. Life turns and repeats this continual opportunity to remember our essence, and experience the strength of our resilience. This upward moving spiral represents this full outrageous journey of the completion of the miracle of regeneration manifesting as you and me in this world. How does that sit with you? Oh, I love that silent applause. That's how I experience it on this end. Silent applause. Okay. Um, just a straightforward question here. Why is it when we're physically together or virtually together like we are here? And I'm grateful that we have this technology to provide this. When together, creating sacred space, why is it that we seem to be able to much more readily shed the skins of the illusions of this world? Like what we're doing right here, right now, for this moment in time. We're just going to shed the skins of the illusions of this world and feel our hearts open, open wide to the joy and the love of being in connection with one another. Why is that? In other words, why is it, because I'll just say it straight out, it's because, we're being in this womb of sacred human togetherness. And we are here for that very, very specific purpose to create and manifest sacred human togetherness. We are remembering right here, right now, together, why we have come, why we have taken birth, to reimagining aging and what it truly means and provides. Finally, speaking of giving birth, I want to return to those first two quotes I shared in the beginning from Einstein, and I prefer to call Yeshua his given Aramaic name, which, those quotes point to the deep need to be in a state of remembrance and relationship with this child. As Yeshua said, let them come unto me, for to such belongs the kingdom of heaven. Have you not heard that and thought, wow, what is this really about? And it still comes down through the ages to us here together today. Gosh. Huh. So, so what is it that this child has that is life-giving, life-sustaining, life-transforming? When reconsidering this, and I've considered it so many times over the past decades, yesterday came to me reading about and giving thought to something I first was connecting with back in the 1980s. How many here remember the 1980s? Okay. Well, I got some hands going, no, I don't remember the 1980s. Okay. Uh, and I was studying A Course in Miracles at the time. How many here have studied that material at one time or another? Okay. Yes. Um, in that material, it frequently addresses innocence. Innocence is a state of being which dissolves all the ways and structures of the world and our inner life that are manifestations of a great, grand, hair-raising illusion. Innocence has the power to dissolve these illusions. And an illusion, what? What about it? It conceals something, does it not? And this is what the great teachers and way showers have done their very best to illuminate. This means losing sight. Okay? Losing sight of our pristine divine identity and being then focused on or drawn toward, reading about thinking about, ruminating about, whatever it is, that which empowers these illusions. This is what is so prescient about what's happening today. And often this leads to some form of disconnection, distraction, self-shaming beliefs, activities, a special quality of what I'm going to describe as madness. Yeah. We all want to see and have the direct experience, I dare say, of what lies hidden behind and beneath this grand illusion. Yes, this world, in spite of itself, at times will actually help us with this. And this world can and has the potential to reveal beauty, love, care, compassion, transformation, and on and on. Our world, our lives, each one of us can be a mirror of that which lies behind these illusions. Therefore, we are drawn to come to places like this that address this common theme of the great mystery, the kingdom of heaven in you. It points toward a spiritual awakening. In other words, the capacity we all have, each and every one of us here today, the capacity we have to see and experience directly what is behind the illusions in this world. And what is there? The beauty and the shining innocence of the embodied truth of who and what we truly are. And this affirmation that you shared earlier, I will repeat in closing. I am ready to live the life I have been waiting for. Period. And as we used to say in the Methodist church that I grew up in Texas in, Amen. And so it is.